A Streetcar Named Desire, another book by Tennessee Williams. A Streetcar Named Desire is a book a about four characters. One of them is a main character. Well, mainly four characters, and one of them is who it's really about. Stella, Stanley, Mitch, and Blanche. Blanche is the main character. To start off, Stella and Stanley are a married couple that are about to have a baby. Stella and Blanche are sisters, and Mitch and Blanche catch feelings for each other throughout the story. Blanche comes to her sister to visit because their family home, Belle Reve, got burnt down. And all their relatives are dead, so she could only go to New Orleans where her sister is. Stanley then suspects that Blanche is hiding a secret about losing Belle Reve, the family house. So then, he starts to go through the papers with Blanche and discovers a secret about her former husband when she was young, and And then arguments started between Blanche and Stanley, so in an attempt to cool down things, Stella takes Blanche to watch a place, and Stanley is going to have a poker session with his friends anyway. So later on, they return early and get home to his poker session and a drunk Stanley. Blanche starts to flirt and play around with Mitch, which upsets Stanley, and therefore Stanley gets angry and starts to argue with Blanche. In another attempt to calm things down, Stella gets punched by a drunk Stanley, which then she runs away. So then Stanley's friends calm him down and sober him up. Once he fully realized his mistake, he ran sobbing outside and calling for Stella. She later appears and hugs him and forgives him. Next morning, Blanche appears to Stella and tells her how she thinks that Stan is an abusive husband and he's not good for her. And she starts talking about him using bad terms like caveman and other words. Little did she know, Stan overheard the conversation. Stella defends Stan. Later that night, Blanche has a date with Mitch. While waiting for Mitch, Blanche sees or spots this newsboy and gives him an inappropriate form of attention. So after that incident, she meets up with Mitch, and everything goes great, but Mitch asks why he only meets her at night and has never seen her in the morning, and that was suspicious then. So, in a successful attempt of changing subjects, she asks about his mother, who is very dear to him. Later in that conversation, she talks about her dead husband, reveals that he was a homosexual. The next day is Blanche's birthday, and she was very excited for Mitch to come over. At the same time, Stan talks to Stella and asks about the hotel Blanche stayed in after she left Belle Reve. That hotel was known for its inappropriate activities, which led Stan to implying she was a prostitute. Later on, he addresses to Stella that he had heard rumors that Blanche got fired for seducing a 17-year-old and not quitting because she needed a break, like she implied. Blanche was a teacher. Blanche later asked if Mitch was coming, and Stan said Mitch wasn't coming after he heard the rumors. All this stress caused Stella to go into labor, and Stella and Stan had to be rushed to the hospital. Later that night, Blanche was left all alone and waiting for Mitch. Mitch then appears, who didn't visit her with good intentions. They argue, and Mitch tells her about the rumors he heard. She then tells him, of course you believe those lies because Stan said them. Mitch then leaves. Blanche gets all alone again and in a bad mental state, which then she gets drunk. Stan gets back early to get rest because Stella isn't due until hours, and Blanche then comes to find Stan comes home to find a drunk Blanche, and drunk and weak Blanche. So he continues to argue with her about what the lies that she just told him about her rich friend that's coming to take her, and gets her to the weakest point she was at, therefore causing her to collapse, but she was still conscious. Then in the book, Stan takes her to her bed. In the book, it was implying that he raped her. When Stella gets home, Blanche tries to convince Stella that Stan raped her, and Stella didn't believe it. And after seeing her stress and her mental weakness throughout these whole events, Stella calls the mental hospital and gets Blanche sent away. In the final moments, Blanche experiences a mental breakdown, and Stella gets sad to see her sister go away. However, Stan was happy, and Mitch was bittersweet, uh, in a bittersweet emotion, because he was happy to see her go away, but at the same time, he wanted to be nice to her, but he couldn't forgive her for the lies she just told.